First contact and friction. The crystalline spires of New Singapore's entertainment district caught the setting sun, casting prismatic shadows across Nova's dressing room. She adjusted her translucent membranes, watching as they rippled with iridescent patterns that matched her mood. Currently, a swirling mixture of anxiety and irritation. The Meridian Singer's latest single had just hit #1 across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, but right now, that was the least of her concerns. "I don't need a human bodyguard," Nova said, her voice harmonizing naturally in the multi-toned way of her species. Each word created subtle light patterns in the air, a trademark of Meridian speech that had helped launch her career. Especially not some. She gestured at the holographic resume floating before her, ex-military grunt. Her manager, Trix, waved all 6 of their appendages in exasperation. "The threats are getting worse, Nova. The purists are gaining influence, and you're becoming a symbol of everything they hate. Interspecies cultural exchange, harmony between worlds. They want to destroy all of that, and you're their perfect target." Nova turned away, her crystalline features catching the light. She knew Trix was right. The latest death threat had been more sophisticated than the others, containing traces of her private performance schedule. There was a leak somewhere in her organization, and she needed help. But still, the door chimed, then slid open with a soft hiss. Nova turned, ready to dismiss whoever had dared interrupt her preparation time. The words died in her throat. Marcus Chen filled the doorway like a statue carved from granite, his bearing unmistakably military despite the civilian tactical wear. His cybernetic left eye whirred almost imperceptibly as it scanned the room, and the subtle shimmer of a personal shield generator caught Nova's attention. But it was his expression that gave her pause. Completely professional, yet there was something in his dark eyes that suggested he saw right through her carefully constructed stage persona. "Ms. Nova," he said, his voice surprisingly soft for such an imposing figure, "I'm here to keep you alive, whether you like it or not." Nova felt her membranes flush with patterns of indignation. "I don't remember hiring you." "You didn't. The Interstellar Entertainment Guild did. After the last threat analysis, you've been classified as high risk. I'm not optional." Trix cleared their throat, all 3 of them. "I'll leave you 2 to get acquainted." They scuttled toward the door, pausing only to add, "Nova, you have sound check in 20 minutes. Try not to crystallize your new bodyguard before then." The door slid shut, leaving Nova alone with Marcus. She studied him more carefully now, noting the way he positioned himself, always maintaining clear sightlines to both exits while keeping her in his peripheral vision. Military training wasn't easy to hide. "Let me make something clear," Nova said, her voice creating ripples of amber light. "I won't have you disrupting my performances or interfering with my fans. I've built my career on being accessible, on breaking down barriers between species. I won't let fear change that." Marcus moved to the window, checking the seals before responding. "Your accessibility is exactly what makes you vulnerable. The purists see you as a symbol of everything they hate, a non-human achieving success in human space, promoting integration." He turned to face her. "They won't stop until they've made an example of you." Nova felt her membranes pulse with anger, sending cascades of red light across her crystalline form. "So I should hide? Let them win." "No," Marcus said, and something in his tone made her pause. "You should fight smart. Let me do my job, and you can keep changing minds with your music. Dead martyrs don't sing." Before Nova could respond, her personal comm chimed. A message scrolled across her retinal display. "Tonai Kites, the night, abomination. The Galactic will be pure again." Marcus was beside her instantly, his cybernetic eye whirring as it scanned the message's metadata. New encryption pattern. This didn't come from the same source as the others. His hand went to his sidearm. "We need to cancel tonight's show." "Absolutely not," Nova said, already moving toward her performance attire. 20,000 fans are waiting out there. I won't disappoint them because of some coward's threats. Marcus stepped into her path. This isn't about courage, it's about survival. Nova met his gaze steadily. No, it's about not letting them win. About showing everyone that fear doesn't get to dictate how we live. She gestured to the window, where the evening crowds were already gathering outside the venue. Look out there. Humans, Meridians, Artaxians, Vrel, all coming together for the music. That's what terrifies the purists. That's why they want to stop me. For a long moment, Marcus said nothing. Then, with a slight nod, all right, but we do this my way. I want full sensor sweeps of the venue, biometric scans of every attendee, and a direct neural link to venue security. Nova felt her membranes shimmer with surprise. You're agreeing with me. I'm adapting to the situation. Besides, and here she caught the ghost of a smile, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Let's give them a show they won't expect. As Nova prepared for soundcheck, she found herself watching Marcus as he coordinated with security, issued commands, and transformed her standard performance venue into a fortress. There was something compelling about his efficiency, the way he moved with such purpose. She caught herself wondering what it would take to see behind that professional facade, to understand what drove a human to dedicate himself to protecting other species. The thought startled her. She didn't have time for such distractions, especially not with a human, even if there was something intriguing about the way his cybernetic eye caught the light. 5 minutes to soundcheck, Marcus announced, interrupting her thoughts. Ready? Nova straightened, her membranes rippling with determination. Born ready. Try to keep up, human. As they made their way to the stage, neither noticed the small drone that hovered briefly outside the dressing room window, its cameras focusing on them before disappearing into the gathering dusk. In a darkened room across the city, a figure watched the feed with growing interest. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The real show was about to begin. Rising tensions. The concert hall thrummed with energy as Nova took the stage. Her crystalline form caught the stage lights, sending prismatic reflections dancing across the audience. Marcus watched from the wings, his cybernetic eye constantly scanning for threats, while his natural eye found itself drawn to her performance. Nova's voice filled the space, each note creating intricate patterns of light that wove through the air. The effect was mesmerizing. Humans and aliens alike swayed together, united by the pure emotion in her song. Even Marcus felt something stir within him, though he quickly suppressed it. Emotions were a distraction he couldn't afford, not with the threat level so high. His neural link buzzed with constant updates from security teams. So far, everything was clean, almost too clean. Years of combat experience had taught Marcus to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming that something was wrong. Section 3, report, he subvocalized through the neural link. All clear, sir. No signs off. The response cut off in a burst of static. Marcus was moving before he consciously processed what that meant. Nova, down, he shouted, launching himself onto the stage as the first explosion rocked the building. Chaos erupted. The crowd panicked as smoke filled the air, but Marcus's focus narrowed to a single point, keeping Nova alive. He reached her just as a second explosion went off, closer this time. His shield generator whined as it deflected debris. Stay close, he ordered, pulling her against him. Nova's crystalline form was surprisingly warm, her membranes pulsing with fear and something else. Anger. My fans, she started to protest, but Marcus was already moving them toward the emergency exit. Security teams are handling evacuation, he said, his cybernetic eye cutting through the smoke to plot their escape route. Our priority is getting you to safety. A figure emerged from the smoke ahead of them, wearing the blank white mask that had become the symbol of the purists. Marcus's hand flew to his weapon, but Nova was faster. She let out a single, piercing note that crystallized the air between them and their attacker, creating a momentary barrier. Impressive, Marcus said as he guided them down a service corridor. You're not the only one with combat training. Nova replied, her voice tight with concentration. Meridians developed sonic crystallization as a defense mechanism long before we became known for our music. They reached the secure vehicle Marcus had prepared, but as he did another scan of the area, his jaw tightened. We're being herded. What do you mean? The explosions, the attacker, they're driving us towards something. This isn't an assassination attempt. It's a capture operation. Nova's membranes flashed with understanding. The purists don't just want to kill me. They want to make an example of me. Marcus nodded grimly. Which means we can't trust any of our pressed evacuation routes or safe houses. They'd been compromised. He made a quick decision. Hold tight. Before Nova could respond, Marcus engaged the vehicle's emergency protocols. The anti-grav units whined as they pushed beyond safety limits, launching them straight up through an emergency hatch in the building's roof. Nova gasped as the city spread out below them, her membranes creating a dazzling light show of fear and exhilaration. Where are we going? She asked as Marcus piloted them away from the chaos below. Somewhere they won't expect, he replied, his focus on navigating through the city's aerial traffic. I have a personal safe house that isn't in any official records. We'll go dark, regroup, and figure out how deep this conspiracy goes. Nova studied his profile in the dim light of the cockpit. You're risking your career by going off-book like this. I'm doing my job, Marcus said, but there was something in his voice that suggested there might be more to it than that. Besides, I've learned that sometimes the only way to beat a rigged game is to flip the table. As they flew deeper into the city's industrial sector, Nova found herself wondering about the man beside her. What had happened in his past to make him so willing to throw away protocol? And why did she feel safer with him than she had with any of her previous security teams? The safe house turned out to be a converted maintenance bay in an abandoned factory complex. As they landed, Marcus's cybernetic eye continued its constant scanning. We should be clear for now, but we can't stay long. The purists will have ways of tracking us that we haven't thought of. Nova nodded, her membranes still pulsing with residual adrenaline. Marcus, thank you for saving my life back there. He turned to her, and for a moment his professional mask slipped. Nova, The moment was interrupted by an urgent alert from his neural link. His expression darkened as he processed the incoming data. What is it? Nova asked, her membranes shifting to patterns of concern. The attack wasn't just aimed at you, Marcus said grimly. Similar explosions have been reported at other xenocultural events across the sector. This is bigger than we thought. The purists are making their move, and you're just one part of their plan. Nova's membranes pulsed with determination. Then we need to stop them. Not just for me, but for everyone they're threatening. Marcus studied her for a long moment, seeing past the beautiful alien exterior to the strength within. It won't be easy, and it'll mean putting yourself at even greater risk. I'm not afraid, Nova said, her voice creating patterns of fierce resolve in the air between them. You should be, Marcus replied softly, but I'll be right beside you. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition that they had crossed a line. They were no longer simply protector and protectee. They were partners in whatever was coming next, and what was coming would test them both in ways they couldn't imagine. The deeper web. The safe house's dim emergency lighting cast strange shadows across Nova's crystalline features as she pored over the data streams Marcus had pulled from the encrypted networks. 3 days in hiding had given them time to dig deeper into the conspiracy, but each new discovery only revealed more disturbing layers. Look at this, Nova said, her voice creating concerned ripples of blue light. The attack patterns aren't random. Every targeted event had one thing in common. They were all moments of significant human-alien cultural exchange. Marcus leaned over her shoulder, close enough that Nova could feel the warmth radiating from him. His cybernetic eye whirred as it processed the data. They're trying to force segregation, create enough fear and chaos that both sides retreat into their own spaces. But why now? Nova's membranes flickered with frustration. Interspecies relations have been improving for years. The Harmony Accords are about to come up for renewal, Marcus finished, his expression grim. The purists aren't just terrorists. They're political operators playing a long game. Nova stood abruptly, her agitation sending cascades of color across her form. We have to stop them. We have to. She swayed suddenly, her crystalline structure dimming. Marcus caught her before she could fall. When's the last time you absorbed proper nutrients? I'm fine, Nova protested, but her membranes told a different story, their usual vibrant patterns now sluggish and dull. You're not fine, Marcus said softly. Your species needs specific wavelengths of light to maintain energy levels. This hiding in darkness isn't sustainable. Nova didn't pull away from his support, finding herself oddly comforted by his proximity. We don't have much choice. The moment I step into proper light, my crystalline signature will be detectable. Marcus was quiet for a moment, still holding her. Then, maybe that's exactly what we need. What do you mean? The purists think they have us running scared. But you're Nova, the brightest star in the galaxy. Maybe it's time we reminded them why. Nova turned to face him, suddenly very aware of how close they were. You want to use me as bait. I want to let you be who you are, a symbol of hope and unity. But this time, we'll be ready for them. His human eye held her gaze while his cybernetic one continued its constant scanning. I have contacts from my military days. People who understand that humanity's future lies in cooperation with other species, not isolation. Can they be trusted? More than the official channels right now. Marcus finally stepped back, and Nova felt the loss of his warmth. But first, we need to get you somewhere you can recover your strength. He moved to the safe house's control panel, inputting a complex series of commands. A section of the ceiling retracted, revealing a carefully filtered skylight. The setting sun's rays streamed through, bathing Nova in golden light. Her crystalline form immediately began to sparkle, absorbing the energy she so desperately needed. Marcus watched, transfixed, as she literally glowed with renewed vitality. Nova caught him staring and felt her membranes pulse with an emotion she wasn't ready to name. Thank you, she said softly, her voice creating patterns that seemed to dance between them. I told you, I'm just doing my job, Marcus replied, but they both knew that wasn't entirely true anymore. Is that really all this is? Nova asked, taking a step toward him. Just duty. Marcus remained still as she approached, his cybernetic eyes scanning the only movement. It can't be more than that. You know the regulations about protector-protectee relationships. Regulations. Nova was close enough now that her light patterns played across his face. The same regulations written by people who might be working with the purists. Nova? His voice held a warning, but he didn't step back. I've spent my whole career fighting against arbitrary boundaries between species, she said. Why should I accept them in my personal life? Before Marcus could respond, his neural link buzzed urgently. The moment shattered as his expression shifted to alert professional mode. Multiple contacts approaching. They found us. Nova's membranes flashed with alarm. How? The skylight. Marcus was already moving, gathering their essential gear. I'm sorry, I should have realized they'd be monitoring for your energy signature. Don't apologize, Nova said firmly. I needed that light, and now I'm strong enough to fight. Explosion rocked the building's foundation. Marcus grabbed Nova's hand. We're about to test that theory. Ready? Nova squeezed his hand, her crystalline fingers intertwining with his human ones. Born ready. They moved together toward the back exit, but both knew this was more than just another escape. Something had shifted between them, a boundary crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. The only question was whether they'd live long enough to explore what that meant. The sound of booted feet echoed through the corridors. The purists were coming, and this time, they weren't just facing a singer and her bodyguard. They were facing two people who had found something worth fighting for, in each other, and in the future they represented shattered illusions. The maintenance tunnels beneath the safe house echoed with the sounds of pursuit. Marcus led the way, his cybernetic eye cutting through the darkness, while Nova's crystalline form provided just enough light to navigate by. Her voice had crystallized the entrance behind them, buying precious minutes, but they both knew it wouldn't hold forever. "My contact is 2 levels down," Marcus said as they reached a junction. "Assuming she's still alive." A voice emerged from the shadows, followed by a figure in stealth armor. "You always did underestimate me, Chen." "Sarah." Marcus's posture relaxed slightly, though his hand never left his weapon. "Good to see the years haven't dulled your timing." "Save the reunion," Sarah said, her own cybernetic modifications glinting in Nola's light. "We've got about 3 minutes before they breach that crystal barrier, and you're not going to like what I found." She projected a hologram into the air between them. Security footage from Nova's record label. Nova's membranes pulsed with shock as she recognized one of the figures in the video. "Tricks." Her voice cracked, creating discordant patterns of light. "My manager is working with the purists." "It goes deeper than that," Sarah said grimly. "The whole label is compromised. They've been using your success to gather intel on alien cultural events, mapping out potential targets. Your music wasn't just entertainment, it was reconnaissance." Nova felt her world tilt. All those years, all those performances, she'd been an unwitting spy for the very people who wanted to destroy everything she believed in. She might have fallen if Marcus hadn't steadied her with a gentle hand. "It wasn't your fault," he said softly. "They used you, just like they're using fear to drive humans and aliens apart." "How can you be so sure?" Nova asked, her membranes dim with doubt. "What if my whole career has been?" "Your music brings people together," Marcus interrupted firmly. "I've seen it. Whatever the purists' plan was, you transcended it. You gave people hope. Real hope." A distant explosion interrupted the moment. Sarah checked her tactical display. "They're through the first barrier. We need to move." "Where?" Nova asked. "If the label is compromised, nowhere is safe." Marcus and Sarah exchanged a look that spoke of shared history. "There is one place," Sarah said, "but you're not going to like it." "The Nexus," Marcus said, understanding dawning on his face. "The old military black site." Sarah nodded. "It's off every grid, and it has the kind of security systems that could give even the purists pause. Plus," she glanced at Nova, "it has the specialized equipment we'll need." "Need for what?" Nova asked, though something in her gut told her she already knew. "To broadcast the truth," Marcus said. "To show everyone how deep this conspiracy goes, and who's really pulling the strings." Another explosion, closer this time. Sarah was already moving. "Choose fast, people. Our window's closing." Nova looked at Marcus, her crystalline features reflecting the gravity of the moment. "A broadcast that big, they'll throw everything they have at stopping us." "Probably," he agreed. "Still think I'm just doing my job." Nova's membranes pulsed with a complex swirl of emotions. "I think you stopped doing just your job a long time ago." Their eyes met in the dim light, volumes passing unspoken between them. Then Nova straightened, her form brightening with determination. "Let's end this, not just for us, but for everyone who believes in a future where boundaries between species don't matter." They followed Sarah deeper into the tunnels, moving as quietly as possible. But Nova noticed that Marcus stayed closer to her than strictly necessary for protection, and she found she didn't mind at all. The Nexus, when they reached it, was a massive underground structure that looked like it had been abandoned for decades. But appearances, Nova was learning, could be deceiving. Sarah placed her hand on what seemed to be a random section of wall, and hidden systems hummed to life. "Welcome to the real resistance," Sarah said as massive doors slid open. "While the purists have been playing their games in public, we've been preparing for the day someone would finally take a stand." Inside, Nova was stunned to find a fully equipped broadcast center staffed by a mix of humans and aliens working in perfect coordination. Her membranes rippled with wonder as she recognized some of the faces: politicians, celebrities, military leaders, all supposedly retired or disappeared. Not everyone believes in the purist's vision of the future, Marcus explained, watching her reaction. Some of us have been working in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to expose their lies. And you think on that moment. You're more than that, he said softly. You're proof that their whole ideology is built on fear and lies. Your music, your very existence, shows that humans and aliens are stronger together than apart. A technician approached, interrupting them. Sir, we're detecting multiple incoming signatures. The purists must have tracked us somehow. Marcus's expression hardened. How long? 20 minutes, maybe less. Sarah was already moving to a command console. I'll coordinate defense teams. You two get to the broadcast center. Everything we've worked for comes down to the next hour. As they hurried through the facility, Nova caught Marcus's hand. Wait. He turned to her, his cybernetic eye still scanning their surroundings. We don't have much time. I know. That's why I need to say this now. Her membranes pulsed with an intensity he'd never seen before. If we don't make it, Marcus pulled her close, surprising them both. We're going to make it, and when this is over, we're going to have a long talk about all the regulations we've been breaking. Nova's crystalline form seemed to glow from within. Promise. Instead of answering, Marcus did something he'd been wanting to do since the first day they met. He kissed her. It was unlike any kiss either of them had experienced. Human warmth meeting crystalline energy in a moment of perfect harmony. When they parted, Nova's membranes were creating patterns of light so beautiful they took Marcus's breath away. Now that, she said softly, was worth breaking a few regulations for. The moment was broken by the facility's alert system blaring to life. The purists had arrived early. It was time for their final stand. But now they had one more reason to make sure they survived it, a future neither of them had imagined possible just days ago. Harmony's dawn. The Nexus's broadcast center thrummed with energy as Nova took her position before the cameras. Marcus stood at the main security console, his cybernetic eye interfacing directly with the facility's defense systems. Sarah's voice crackled over the comm, reporting the purists' advance through the outer perimeter. Remember, Marcus said, his hand briefly touching Nova's crystalline shoulder, once you start broadcasting, every purist cell in the sector will lock onto our position. We'll have maybe 10 minutes before they overwhelm our defenses. Nova's membranes pulsed with determination. 10 minutes is all I need to tell the truth. She paused, covering his hand with hers. Just stay alive. I have plans for you after this. The ghost of a smile crossed his face. Yes, Mom. The first explosion rocked the facility just as Nova began her broadcast. Her crystalline form caught the studio lights, creating a dazzling display that complemented her words. People of the galaxy, I am Nova. You know me as a singer, but today I speak as something more. A witness to a conspiracy that threatens everything we've built together. As Nova revealed the truth about the purists, backed by hard evidence from the Resistance's intelligence network, Marcus coordinated the facility's defense. Purist forces had breached the second perimeter, but they were meeting fierce resistance from Sarah's teams, humans and aliens fighting side by side. They've reached the main corridor, Sarah reported, the sound of weapon fire in the background. Chen, we need you down here. Marcus hesitated, looking at Nova. She nodded without breaking her broadcast stride. Go. I got this. He sprinted to join the defense, arriving just as a massive explosion tore through the corridor's reinforced doors. Through the smoke strode a familiar figure. Trix, Nova's former manager, now wearing the white mask of a purist leader. I always knew you'd be trouble. Chen, Trix said, their multiple appendages each wielding a weapon. You never could just follow orders, could you? Following orders is easy. Marcus replied, his cybernetic eye identifying weak points in Trix's combat suit, knowing which orders to question. That's the hard part. The fight that followed was brutal. Marcus's military training clashed with Trix's alien combat style, neither able to gain a clear advantage. Around them, humans and aliens on both sides engaged in desperate combat, the fate of galactic society hanging in the balance. In the broadcast center, Nova's voice rang out clear and true, her light patterns adding emotional weight to every revelation. The purists want you to believe that different species can't coexist, that harmony is impossible. But look at us now, humans and aliens fighting together, dying together, for the chance at a better future. A lucky shot from Trix caught Marcus in his cybernetic eye, temporarily blinding him on that side. As he staggered, Trix pressed their advantage, multiple weapons training on his position. You humans, Trix sneered, always thinking you can change the natural order. Species weren't meant to mix. That's where you're wrong, Marcus said, and there was something in his voice that made Trix hesitate. We weren't meant to be anything but what we choose to be. In that moment of hesitation, Sarah's team struck from behind, their coordinated attack driving Trix back. Marcus seized the opportunity, launching himself forward in a move that would have made his combat instructors proud. His remaining natural eye locked onto the critical weak point in Trix's armor, and his shot found its mark. As Trix fell, their mask shattering, Nova's voice reached a crescendo in the broadcast center. The future doesn't belong to those who would divide us. It belongs to all of us together. Look around you, at your neighbors, your friends, your loved ones. Are we really so different? Or are we just afraid to admit how similar we truly are? The remaining purist forces, seeing their leader fall and hearing Nova's words echoing through the facility, began to surrender. Sarah's teams moved efficiently to secure them. Human and alien law enforcement already en route to make arrests. Marcus limped back to the broadcast center, arriving just as Nova finished her transmission. The moment she saw him, her membranes erupted in patterns of relief and joy. She ran to him, not caring about the cameras still rolling. "You're hurt," she said, touching his damaged cybernetic eye. "Worth it," he replied, pulling her close. "You did it. The evidence is out there now. They can't hide anymore." Nova's form sparkled with emotion. "We did it. Together." She looked up at him, her membranes creating patterns more beautiful than any she'd ever made on stage. "So about those regulations we broke." Marcus laughed, a sound of pure relief and happiness. "I think saving galactic civilization earns us some leeway." "Good," Nova said, and kissed him. The cameras caught it all, human and alien, protector and protectee, two beings from different worlds choosing love over fear. The image would become a symbol of the new era they had helped create. In the days that followed, the full scope of the purist conspiracy would be revealed. High-ranking officials were arrested, corrupt institutions were reformed, and the Harmony Accords were strengthened. But perhaps more importantly, people throughout the galaxy saw living proof that love could transcend any boundary. Nova returned to music, but her songs now carried an even deeper message of unity. Marcus remained by her side, both as protector and partner, their relationship a testament to the future they had fought for. And if anyone objected to seeing a human and a crystalline alien together, they needed only to look at the way Nova's membranes created heart-stopping light shows whenever Marcus entered the room, or the way his smile, both human and cybernetic eyes shining, showed just how beautiful harmony could be. The end.